Welcome back to another episode of At Home with the Willises. I'm Nicci.
And I'm Jameen.
And today's question is, should all schools have armed security now? Our special guest today is our beautiful daughter, Nia. Hi, Nia. And we've got a lot of things to talk about, so stay tuned. All right, everybody. So before we get started, I want to remind you that if you haven't, definitely hit that subscribe button. It's right down there. And also hit that bell so that you are notified every time we upload new content. So also before I get started, it's already heavy for me. It's already heavy. It's okay. Also, before we get started, just want to put out a trigger warning. This is going to be a very heavy topic. And so if this topic is too hard for you, definitely you want to watch something else. We've got plenty of other content, so go ahead and watch something else. But we are going to talk about mass shootings. We're going to talk about gun violence. So we also have some information in the description below if you need help or want to talk to somebody about it. But last week was interesting. Last week was interesting. And the Willises, because you're at home with the Willises, we chose to be transparent with our lives. And we knew we couldn't have another podcast episode that is, the norm when our lives were flipped upside down last week. So we have our daughter here. Hey, Nene.
Hello.
This is our daughter, Nia. Babe, if you want to stop me at any point, you definitely can.
I got you.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. Well, this is our daughter, Nia. She is a student at UNLV.
What year student?
I'm a sophomore at UNLV.
You are. And she is now a psychology major, right?
I am.
And so last week, if you guys are watching the news in any type of capacity, you know that UNLV experienced a mass shooting. And as parents, that is something that you never want to experience. And we are now telling you from firsthand experience. So we brought Nia on. We kind of talked about it as a family and asked her permission if she wanted to share, and asked her permission about what we should share. And I first want to thank you, Nene, for being on. We call her Nene. Thank you, Nia.
Do the nicknames.
I'm sorry. You're right. Now people are going to be calling you Nene. Oh, shoot. Don't call her Nene. That's a family thing. Okay? Sorry about that.
It's okay.
Okay. But we brought Nia on to share about what happened last week and talk a little bit more about what's going on in the world and how things that are happening and how it's affecting everyone. So, okay, babe, you take it away. This is heavy for me.
Okay. You said, and you take it away after.
I did. It happens when I'm nervous, and I'm nervous.
So first of all, I want to talk about how not everybody knows what happened. So we'll just go broad spectrum real quick. So since probably the farthest back I can think of, as far as mass shootings, Columbine was kind of like the first big mass shooting that happened. Now it seems like every week there's a different shooting at a school or a college or a university or a church and things like that. So this situation caused me personally not to be so desensitized, because that's another thing too with these mass shootings and things happening at schools. It happens so much now, you start to stop being like, oh my gosh.
Right.
So for people that didn't know, UNLV, which is a college campus here in Las Vegas, had a shooting. And I put that out there because it's like, duh, everybody knows that. But everybody doesn't know that.
It's true.
And just to kind of point that out there was another shooting in Texas.
Within 24 hours. Within the same day.
Within 24 hours or the same day. So everybody doesn't know that there was a shooting at UNLV. So they had a shooting at UNLV. And unfortunately, this particular shooting hit home because it was in our city. Our daughter went to the college, and she was actually in the same building where things were going on. So that's actually what happened. And we want to talk about when it hits you personally. And it's like, as always with our podcast, we talk about, like, what can we do? Not just gossiping or talking about the problems of the world. Like, what can we do, or what should be going on?
Right.
So I just kind of want to give an opportunity, Nia, for you to just talk about, like, what happened that day. What was your experience like, actually, because you not new to hearing about shootings either, but what was kind of like the difference between, like, oh, you heard about a shooting on TV versus this time, like, what?
Right. So I was there. It was so odd because it was just like a normal school day. I had a presentation to do in the student union, and I was it was like 11:15. I was walking out of my 10 a.m. class.
Right.
And I was headed towards the student union. It was study week, so usually all the kids are on campus, and there's a bunch of events going on.
Right.
And as I was walking to the student union, we had our like study week event, and it was like waffles and Legos or something. And it was so cute. Everyone was like smiling, laughing, just, you know, stressed out about finals, but something to like kind of get their minds off of it. And so I headed up to the student union to do my presentation, and not, 15 minutes later, we hear about the threats that are on campus from one of the administrators in the room. And it kind of escalated like really fast in a sense, because I feel like, we're all walking around talking. He comes on the mic and he's like, hey, there's been a threat on campus. We're not going to do too much worrying about it. We're just all going to stay in here, keep talking, keep hanging around. It's fine.
So at the time, everybody was like, no. Okay.
Everyone was just like, this is weird, whatever. And so that's when we all look on our phones too, and we see that there's been shots fired. Wow. So he's not really making a big deal of it. So everyone's just kind of like, what's going on? We don't really hear anything. Yeah. And we're right next to the building, so we're just like, this is odd. They're saying that the police, they're handling the situation. Right. So we're like, okay, like, we'll just stay in here. And so 2 minutes later, he gets back on. He's like, okay, we're gonna lock the doors. Feel free to still, talk around, but it's a hard lockdown. Wow. And so then we're like, oh, okay. So it kind of goes silent, like a weird, like eerie silence in the room. So then,
was this before? Did he make the announcement before y'all started getting text messages on your phone? Did y'all get text messages and then he got on the mic?
He made the announcement, and then we all look on our phones and we're like, oh my gosh, there's been a shooting there's shots fired in the BEH. Okay. And so then after his like third announcement, he's like, okay, I think it's best if we all just kind of go to the back of the ballroom, because we were in a big ballroom in the second floor of the student union. And he's like, I think it's best if we go to the back of the ballroom and kind of sit on the floor, and we're going to close all the blinds, and we've locked all the doors in the bottom of the student union as well. And so at this point, we're all sitting there, and a couple minutes go by, and we start hearing like the shots being fired outside during like around like the plaza area around like the business building. And so everyone's like, oh my gosh, and starting to like freak out a little bit. And so he gets back on. We're all looking at our phones for updates. Everyone's sending parents messages, calling. We have a lot of
us.
Yeah, I was texting my parents at the same time. A lot of the other administrators and teachers, they were walking around checking on people, trying to like hand people food and drinks, just kind of reassuring that we were going to be okay. But it was really hard for everyone to just like feel okay. And so then we...
But tell them, not to cut you off, tell them about how they were saying on the news, like it was a handgun. And the difference
what did you hear?
Hearing the handgun.
So personally, everyone around me in the second floor, I don't think we heard a handgun. We kind of heard more of like, just like automatic. I think I heard more of like an automatic, like a round of shots, not just a couple pops. Personally, that's what I heard. Right. We still don't know the full story. I don't think anyone knows the full story besides obviously the detectives and the school itself. But that's what we heard around when we were on the back wall. And so then he gets back on the mic.
And you texted us. Texted us that.
Everyone was texting like we hear shots. Like, that's when I was like, okay, this is getting kind of serious. Yeah. And so he gets back on, and that made it serious, but what really made it serious is when it was when the administrator, he gets back up, and I don't know his name, I'm sorry, but when he gets back up and he's like, okay, like, he kind of said he was kind of like saying like, this is getting kind of serious. If anything goes wrong, we have a plan B option. We're all gonna go out the back door. And just kind of, he's just reiterating the words, run, hide, and fight. Those were the words that we kept seeing on the text messages when we were getting all the shooting updates. And so we just have run, hide, fight, run, hide, fight. And so
you were sending us that. You said this the screenshot.
I sent us 3 times because that's like, I think the first time was the shots fired. The second time was there was an active shooter. And then the third time, which made it really scary, was that there were shots fired in the student union. And we didn't know where the shots were coming from and who the shots like were from.
And that was the building that you was in for people.
That's the one that I was in.
The student union was the building that you were in, and they said there were shots fired.
And so at that point, everyone's kind of making their own assumptions. Are there multiple shooters? Why is it taking so long? Because it had been 20 minutes, and it's kind of like, you know, we thought they were on the same floor. Because it said the police were responding to the shooter. So we thought they were on the same floor with the shooter, and it had only been in one building. But we were hearing shots in our building. We heard shots outside. So we were kind of like, how many are there? Are there more than one? It was just really confusing. And so then there's a lot of commotion going on downstairs. And people were, I didn't hear anything, but people were saying that they were hearing shots being fired downstairs. And so a couple minutes go by, there were a lot of commotion downstairs, and the administrator, he gets back up. This time he's not on the mic, he's trying to stay quiet, he's trying to keep everyone quiet. He did tell us that he wanted us to just kind of be quiet, just in case. And so he's like, okay, we're gonna all just move to the back of the ballroom and just kind of like huddle around each other, just in case we need to like evacuate quickly. And so we all rush to the back, and like everyone's kind of panicky rushing, like almost, and it's like sense like trampling over each other to try to get there because no one wants to be in the front, like you know, this big ballroom, there's no really hide yourself. And so
that was when you sent the second video that went black.
That wasn't that one yet.
No, that was just y'all huddling.
We were all just trying to get to we were just like, oh my gosh. And so we hear a whole bunch of commotion while we're all in this little circle, and we didn't know who it was, so everyone's heart just sinks, and like you can hear the administrators going like, oh my god. And so like that's when we were like, okay, they're freaking out, we're freaking out, like what's going on? And
you thought the shooter
we were thinking the shooter had just came upstairs, or the shooter came into the student union and the police were with him, whatever, or there was multiple coming upstairs. We didn't know, so like our imaginations are just going wild at this point.
Of course.
And so luckily it was the police, and they came into the ballroom, and they're like, hands up. So everyone's just like, you know, hands up. And so, you know, they're like, it's okay, you guys are safe. We're just trying to get everyone out, and we're trying to evacuate everyone quickly and safely as possible. So we all start walking out kind of in a single file line, and that's when I started recording the third video. And that was us walking out, and you can just hear them, you know, screaming like, hands up, keep your hands up. You know, like keep a lookout, because they're also still looking for if there was anyone in the student union. Right. Again, we don't know. Like, there was 2 doors that got shot at in the student union. My theory is maybe it was just the SWAT team coming in because we had locked the doors. But there were other people saying that it wasn't, and there was actually, like, victims in there and stuff. So we don't know. But on our way out, the police officers were just assuring us that we were going to be okay, and that the, you know, threat had been, like detained or whatever. And so we were walking out, and that's when we saw like just kind of like the mess that like happened in the student union. You can just see like people that were probably running out or whatever, and then like the glass and stuff that had gotten shattered. And so finally we were able to exit, and we were by the parking lot of like Chipotle and Cheba Hut, and we kind of just all stood there, just kind of like, what just happened? And I think at that point, a lot of people just kind of broke down, because they were just like, you know, like, that was just like so crazy that just happened. People calling family members, and then we just kind of all stood there for a little bit, because we didn't know if we were allowed to leave, if it was safe to go anywhere else. So like 15 minutes went by, and then they were finally like, okay, you guys are allowed to leave, but you can't go back to campus. You kind of have to walk a couple blocks down to go get picked up, because they had a lot of things blocked off.
Yeah, and thankfully your friend's mom was there, or she was on her way, and so she was able to pick you up and bring you home. But so that's your part of the story.
Yeah,
so on our side, what we were experiencing was screenshot, and then it was, I hear shots fired downstairs. And for me as a mom, my heart sank. I'm gonna try to hold it together. Actually, I ain't gonna try to hold it together. It's fine. My heart sank, because like anybody that's a parent, where you send your child off and you're not there. You know, we pray over you guys every day. I know it's something that morning. I did. Yeah. I prayed for you that morning. I said, is there anything you want me to pray about? And you were like, my presentation. I just
hope it goes by quick.
Yeah, you were like, my presentation. I was like, all right. But I always pray protection over you guys, and you never think that it's gonna happen to you.
That was a lot of our thoughts. It's just like, this is so crazy. Like,
and that's what they're talking about, desensitized. You know, you hear when things like this happen, and you're kind of like, man, you know, send up a prayer for them, or you know, a moment of silence or anything like that. But when this thing hits home, it's totally different.
Yeah.
And Dad and I, we were on I called Dad, or Dad called me. I can't remember. We're on the phone and we're getting text messages. Yeah. We're getting text messages from you. And y'all know I'm a prayer person. So I'm praying, I'm pacing the floor, feeling so helpless. Feeling so helpless as a parent. Go ahead, Dad. Sorry.
Yeah, that was the worst part, is like when we were on the phone, we were praying and we were getting the text messages from you. But as a parent, well, I didn't even say as a parent, from my point of view, it's like as a father, you want to try to fix a problem. So it's like I couldn't even go down there like on some Rambo stuff, like, you know, to try to save the day. So it's like that's the worst feeling, like feeling like you can't help and you don't know what's about to happen. Like that was the worst feeling. So for us, it was like you didn't have time to process. Oh, is this just like a threat? It was like immediately like, no, this is not a threat. This is like, so you had to just spring into just prayer action is what we were doing.
There's really absolutely nothing you can do. Yeah. There's nothing you can do.
And then every minute that you didn't text, it seemed like
it felt like an hour. Like, it felt like an hour. And then like the thought process of, okay, do I text her now? Because I don't know if the shooter is there. And like, what if her phone goes off and then there's a light that goes off and it gives you away? Like that type of stuff, that thought process is it is shattering. It is shattering. And then we had to tell you, like, we said we love you. And because at least you needed to know. Because we didn't know what was going to happen. Now, I'm a prayer warrior, and you know I had all the prayer warriors all everywhere praying and everything else. But at the end of the day, you just never know. You never know. And so to have to say that as a parent, because you don't know if your child is going to make it home. And what I said was, just make it home, baby. Just make it home. It was it was scary. Did you feel like a sigh of relief when you made it outside? Did you feel like, oh, thank God we made it outside? Or were you just still like, I don't know what just happened?
I was just kind of like, I don't know what just happened. It was like, what just happened? And like, at the same time, it was more or less when like we got into the car and we were listening to like their first like conference that they had or whatever, a press conference. And he was just saying that like, oh, you know, there's no more threat. There's no longer a threat. And like, they kind of had like the potential suspects. And it was multiple suspects, but they were saying there was only one. So we were kind of like, what's going on? Like, this is a little odd.
It's
and so
frustrating.
it was just frustrating. It was like, what? Like, it's so weird. But it was a sigh of relief to just, you know, be like, okay, whew, like I'm alive. But then it was also like the amount of suspects that people were saying there was like 28 suspects. So I was like, do I know one of those 28 suspects? Like,
or victims.
28 victims. Sorry. Right. Like, do I know any of them? Like, you know, like what were they going through? You know, just kind of, again, how many suspects were there? It was just a lot of questions that were just unasked. So it just so made you feel uneasy.
And that's another thing too. You go through this situation, and if you weren't directly involved in it, you think about it from whatever the media tells you, but you get whatever the media tells you and what they do for PR versus
what we're looking at.
When we were on the phone and you were texting, we're like, oh my God, it's 3 people down there. Yeah. 3 people coming to do something versus one person is a big difference. So I guess we'll never know. But we know that the media downplays things. So it could have been one shooter, it could have been 3 or 4 shooters. But to us, what we experienced, it definitely was more than one shooter because of what we felt. And then as far as, I don't know if you told me or somebody, I'm thinking it was like 20, 30 people that got injured or shot. That's a way more scary thought, like in your feelings. One person, somebody be mad at one person and go after one person. It's another person said, I'm just going to go create as many casualties as I can. And that's like the worst feeling. Like this person is like just doing
angry
whatever.
With the world.
Angry with the world. So that's what made it really bad. And that's what a lot of people don't talk about, because even if it was a mass shooting, they probably downplay that even more, even in like other situations and stuff like that. Yeah. Or they don't really tell you how bad it is, but the people who actually went through it know how bad it really was. So, this is something that we will continue to, monitor, and something that we won't, forget. But I think that's something that we need to think about and realize, as whether there was 1 or 4, but in that moment, it was not just one person. It was much greater threat, and that feeling of uncertainty, like heightened more than what they say on the news, or said it was just one person, casualties. And we definitely, our prayers go out to the people that were affected, the families of the people that, they actually lost somebody. Yeah. But what actually went on lingers. Really went on, lingers on more than what they say on it.
Yeah, and that's, I think, watching your friends, walk through the aftermath of being in something like this. And again, like you said, like our hearts, like, hurt. People lost their lives. This man killed people, and then he died too. And so these families, they didn't get the privilege of their family member coming home, but then also there are thousands of people that were directly affected, whether they were running for their lives, hiding, telling their family members that they love them. If I heard so many stories where children, I call them children, are texting their family members, if something happens, tell everybody I love them. And so when you go through something like that, a near-death experience, that is traumatic. And I'm watching the aftermath, and everybody needs help. Everybody needs counseling. Everybody needs a place where they can process, a safe place where they can process. Just because, I think I wrote this on my IG stories, just because the physical threat is gone doesn't mean that the emotional and psychological threat that it has taken is gone. I mean, there is a grieving process, not only for those who have passed and whose lives were taken, but there's a grieving process. Your college experience will never be the same. And we have to understand that. There are people whose college experiences, whose careers, whose just everyday lives will never be the same. And people are going to need help, constant help, to make sure that they are still able to live and function in a healthy way. I told you, I'm like, we're getting you help. We're getting you help. I need help as a mom, because still processing it now, it feels just like yesterday as you were describing it. It feels like we're right in that moment, and having to tell your child, we love you, I love you, just in case something happens, is unreal. It is unreal. And so I don't know, man. I'm grateful that you're here.
Yeah.
I am so grateful that you are here. It could happen anywhere. And that's the horrible part right now, especially like in America. This is happening. It's happening. And it has, again, I was in 9th grade when the Columbine shooting happened. But we have been through so many more. Sandy Hook. Those were children.
Babies.
Those children they were babies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think now they're maybe like graduating high school. But these parents lost their kindergartners, their first graders. We've been through so many mass shootings, and everybody's desensitized. And this was one of the things that we talked about as a family as to why we chose to talk about this. We need to not be so desensitized about this. We need to take this seriously. This should not be every day for people, for America. It should not be. It should not be. And something has to happen on multiple levels.
So the question is that we talked about is, should all schools have armed security now? Now, I have my points of view from a parent point of view. I have my points of view from seeing from Columbine up to in my own household.
Yep.
Would you feel like, aside from what we're doing as far as, getting help, counseling, things like that, would you feel more comfortable if the security was heightened at, UNLV? Do you feel like all schools, since you've been in this experience, do you feel like all schools should have armed security now?
I know we have like our couple police officers that like patrol. Armed security, I think they should get more for sure. I don't know if it should be like a massive amount. Definitely more. I think more would be nice, especially when we have like big events like what was going on Wednesday. I think definitely like they should. I don't think I've ever seen like police around when we do the little plaza events or just school like events that are ran by the Rebel Board. I don't know if I see them.
Well, they did say that a plainclothes police officer was the one that took him down.
Yeah.
So maybe there are plainclothes officers that are around and not,
Yeah.
actual like policemen with
I think
the uniform.
Our issue is more that's just an open campus and that the location of our campus. I think.
So for those of you who don't know, good point. UNLV is like centered right in the middle of Las Vegas. So
They call it
it's an urban campus. Yeah. So it's not ducked off, and there's no gates or anything like that. Anybody can go into this
cornfield.
Right. Anybody can go into the student union. Anybody can go pretty much into every building except for the dorms.
Yeah, and we've had.
And it's across the street from the airport. Right. Yeah, it's down the street from the Strip. Right. I mean, it's right in the middle of everything. So, I personally, I mean, we are the public school system. Let's just start there. The public school system, because you said all schools. Public school system is already the way it's set. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, Coronado just a couple months ago, they had a like some girls went on campus and stole a whole bunch of laptops and phones because no one was there to check or ID or anything. And I 100% agree. Like, you can go into Coronado anytime you want, really, because they don't have anyone patrolling. They have like the one security officer.
Yeah.
But like,
and that's most schools. Like, there's not a lot of, we had, and I'm back in the day, we had Mr. Franklin. And he stood right there in the entrance. But anywhere else, I mean, they lock the doors, everywhere else. But if you can get through Mr. Franklin, it's open season.
You also have to think like Coronado and a lot of the schools in Vegas have that open, like
very open air. We're not used to that.
There's a lot of different ways to get in.
Yeah,
and they don't close the other doors to the outside.
Yeah, I know they've changed that since. Like just like making sure that there's only like one way in, one way to get out, things like that. Just with increased like violence and threats to our children. But what it hurts me to think that, if and thank God my kids are y'all grown just about. Jonathan's the youngest, but to have a child that's in kindergarten, it's their first year of kindergarten, and you see armed gunmen all around you. Like, how does that make you feel safe? It's like jail. To me,
Right.
it looks like prison.
But it's better than having mass shootings continue to happen, because now we have to realize, it's the same thing as we don't let Jonathan walk to the park by himself and go to the park and play basketball by himself. But when we were 10, 12 years old, we go outside. Your parents had no idea where we were at.
Yeah.
Society changed, so you have to kind of change with society. So I feel like schools have to do the same thing. Now we have mass shootings, kids bringing guns to class and to school. So you have to change with society. Just like now we use technology. Before they didn't have. Now we got cyber attacks now. So now we got to put security on all our kids' computers for a cyber attack. So I think that, yes, it may seem like jail, but it'll be a little bit more safer than it just being open season, because UNLV has more security and police officers. You know why? Because UNLV is a campus that makes money. But these elementary schools, these junior high schools, these high schools, they don't make money. They don't place a value on the security of our kids. Children. And so the mass shootings happen because these people feel like they can get away with it. And it's the
you
same.
think it's a vulnerability aspect?
Of course it's a vulnerability. True.
Well, people go into workplaces too.
Schools, churches, workplaces and things like that. But when it happens to the same place over and over again, it's like it's not rocket science that you need to change something. Same thing with banks.
Too many people have guns. Too many people have guns.
Too many people have guns, but it's more security. Like, if you knew you wouldn't get away with it, less people would try. Just like banks. It used to be super easy to rob a bank because they knew they could get away with it. Then they start putting armed security guards in banks. Guess what? You see banks getting robbed less.
That's a bank, though.
Because they have armed.
These are children.
But you have to place a value on our kids just like you do with money.
These other countries don't have these problems.
These other countries don't have the same culture we have. We got a liberal entertainment, Grand Theft Auto country. That's the country that we live in. So this is our culture, and you have to put things in place to maintain the culture. I mean,
you see why stuff has to change on so many levels, because it's not just. I mean, it's people have psychological problems. Spiritually, you got to be in your right mind. What you heard multiple guns going off, or rounds of and then they said it was a handgun. What if somebody just had PTSD and they were carrying?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah.
So they were just trying to defend themselves. Too many people have guns. There needs to be more strenuous background checks for people.
Yeah.
There needs to be it needs to be regulated.
Well, I'm not saying it's the solution for everything, but I'm saying that it needs to be one of the solutions or one of the things that's done to
somebody was suggesting
help mitigate that.
Teachers carry.
I don't agree.
My God.
I don't agree with teachers getting carried for a couple reasons. First thing, teachers don't get paid enough already as it is to do their job in the first place. So to ask them to be a security guard or carry a gun, I don't agree with that because they don't get paid enough. The second thing is too many discrepancies of teachers getting into fights with students and things like that. Yeah. So a student mad or something like that, they could tackle a teacher down. No, it needs to be a separate person. You can't just keep combining things and placing more responsibility on a teacher. It's not a teacher's job is to teach, and a teacher.
But that was a suggestion that people were making.
Yeah,
that's insane.
That's probably not the best thing, but it is an option. But teachers need to feel safe too. Yeah, I mean, look at this mass shooting. It wasn't students; it was actually professors. Yeah. So teachers need to feel safe too. Imagine that you're teaching because you want to make a difference. And you already don't get paid enough, and you don't feel safe coming to work, and then on top of you not feeling safe, they're gonna ask you to help you and kids feel safe. No, I don't agree with that. They need to have armed security guards at schools. And you're right. Some people have PTSD. Some people, a lot of the people that have these shootings have mental problems, but you need somebody that can look for that. Like I was talking to somebody yesterday, and he told me that he works at Nellis Air Force Base, and before he moved here, they had active shooter training, and he taught active shooting training. James, where he works at the Air Force Base, and he said back in the day they told him, "Oh, we don't need that." So from training to armed security guards, it's happened way too much in order for something to not be in place. So from the standpoint of the anti-gun people, if you say, okay, I'm anti-gun, it looks like jail, it's just, if you don't do something, then it's just open season. And to be honest, since this country became a country, the first thing they talk about is their Second Amendment rights. That's not realistic that we gonna get rid of our guns, because at the end of the day, I'm not a big gun enthusiast, but I need to feel as a father, as a provider, as a protector, I need to protect my household. That's the first thing my grandfather did. Is when I bought my first house, he gave me this little bitty rusted starter pistol. And was like,
thank God you didn't have to use that.
You gotta protect your house, but you do. Imagine somebody breaking into my house, and it's 4 people coming into my house, and I can't defend my family. So you gonna get rid of my gun and prevent me from defending my family? And yeah, okay, I may be looked at as a level-headed person that don't have PTSD and things like that. That's who you need to have.
But you can just go in and just buy a gun for real.
You can't just go in and buy a gun.
You have to have more testing to drive a car,
right?
Than to get something that could literally for real kill somebody for real. I mean, you can kill somebody with a car too, but you have to have more testing and levels to get your driver's license than it is for you to own a gun. Yeah. That's insane.
Yeah, it needs to be tougher gun laws, but the same thing, if somebody wants to end their life, they're going to find a way to end their life, whether it's a gun or a knife or jumping off a bridge or whatever.
There's also testing. It's harder for people to get a job than to get a gun. They do psychological tests. We when we're hiring, we put people through leadership testing and all this stuff. It is harder for people to get a job than to get a gun. You mean to tell me you can't take a written test, some kind of psychological test, so we can make sure at least everything is clicking okay, and you're not thinking about
apples to apples stuff. Getting a job versus getting a gun.
I'm just saying how easy it is to do other things and have access to other things, or how easy it is to have access to a gun than it is to have access to other things. That's all I'm saying. And so, I'm team protect these babies, but I don't want it to look like jail. Yeah, I don't want my child walking up to school and all they see are these armed men and women, with these big machine guns. I mean,
well, it don't have to be like that. Just like church. If you go to our church, and I worked on safety and security, you have no idea
who's.
Yeah.
It's at least 10 people in our church that carry, but you never see them. On top of the Henderson, it's 2 police officers.
But then you're going to spend millions of dollars on security, and nobody can pay these teachers.
Hey, I'd rather do that than I'd rather do that and pay a little bit more in taxes to send my children to school and not worrying if they're gonna make it home all right. I'd rather do that than to send my kid to school not knowing if they're gonna make it home.
To me, it's just putting a Band-Aid on a huge wound.
Yeah, it's one of many things that
we need more counselors. We need more psychologists. Thank you, Neil. Unless you change your major. But we need, mental health is health. Mental health is health.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
You know what I'm saying? Like all these things, and that's why it's layered, and clearly we're not gonna solve world hunger today. But we at least need to start with not being so desensitized to this glaring issue that is plaguing our country and affecting our children, our family members, our co-workers, people, our neighbors, people that we go to church with. We need to not be so desensitized. We need to wake up, and we need all hands on deck.
Yeah.
In every industry, from the government to education to entertainment, we need all hands on deck because this problem isn't going to go away with just, one quick switch. Yeah. Everyone needs to be involved. And unfortunately, it has hit home for us. What we don't want is it hitting home for you. I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy. I can tell you that right now. I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. And so we need to do something.
So that's what we have this podcast for, to be transparent and to be a resource to help people from talking about sacrifice things like, selling your wedding ring to being involved in a mass shooting. So
that's what it was.
We wanted to thank you, Nia,
Thanks,
for being on,
You
talking
great.
about this, being transparent.
Mommy's being mushy for me.
Get off.
Okay, I'm sorry.
It's about to fall over this chair.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. I'm going to just fall off the chair.
We are going to put resources because not just because it affected us, but when it hits home, it hits different. So we're going to put links. We're going to put resources from counseling, assistance, information where if you're affected from a mass shooting, you feel like you need to talk to a counselor or you need to know what help you can get. As we're, doing it ourselves. So we're not telling you to do something that we're not researching and doing ourselves. So we're going to put that in the information in the description.
Yeah.
And,
I do have a real estate minute. I know this has been heavy,
okay,
but
do your real estate minute.
We're going to do my real estate minute.
This
This one's really quick. We're talking about schools. And so as real estate professionals, we are not allowed to tell you, oh, this is a great school, this is a terrible school. Go to this school, go to that school. We have to remain neutral aside from our personal experience that we have with neighborhoods, with schools, etc. So if you are moving anywhere, a great resource that you can use is greatschools.org. Again, that's greatschools.org. It ranks all the schools in your area from public to private to charter. And out of 10, it will tell you the rating or ranking of the school. So we use that moving here. Yep. And we made our decision and our move based on that and some other factors. But it is a great resource. I would say it's probably one of the more unbiased ones. And that's why I like to recommend it. So definitely check out greatschools.org. It'll be in the description below. And hopefully that'll help somebody as you're moving and relocating.
All right, guys. This has been Hitting Home and At Home with the Willises. We'll see you next week.
Thanks for joining us. Bye.